My number 3 tight end in the 2021 NFL draft is Penn State's Pat Freiermuth. Here's a guy that a lot of people call Baby Gronk. Nah, I don't see that at all. Okay, let's not get carried away with some of the comparisons. Gronk is a unique physical specimen that this league has really never seen before at the tight end position. He's a different breed. I shouldn't say never seen before, but we rarely see guys like Gronk. So Pat Freiermuth is not Baby Gronk. Okay, I would say Travis Kelce is much closer to Gronk than Pat Freiermuth ever will be. But that said, doesn't mean that Pat Freiermuth doesn't have a chance to be a really good tight end at the next level. And so let's talk about what Pat Freiermuth brings to the table and why he is my 3rd rated tight end. And it would not shock me if he was the 2nd tight end to come off the board in the 2021 NFL draft. Let's flip his card over and take a look. So first thing you'll notice about Pat Freiermuth is his size. Guy's 6'5", 250 pounds. Gives you that radius that you're looking for in terms of catching a football. Got the athleticism that you like. Even though he did not run a 40, he did have shoulder surgery, so he did not work out at the Penn State Pro Day. But one thing we can all acknowledge, if there's one school that produces the most uncanny and insane athletes we've ever seen in our lives following this sport, it's Penn State University. I mean, we saw 2 more athletic freaks that they produced this year in Jason Owe and also the linebacker Micah Parsons. Just ridiculous, off the charts 40s and movement skills. But we've seen that. Mike Gesicki, freak. Saquon Barkley, freak. We see this all the time at Penn State. I mean, hell, even Washington got caught up drafting a safety that blew up the combine, and Troy Apke, freak from Penn State, ran a sub 4.4, 4.3, 4.40 or something crazy like that. And so I wouldn't doubt Pat Freiermuth from an athletic standpoint, although I don't think he tears it up in a 40. You know what I'm saying? Like he looks more like a 4.69 to 4. I really think he's more so 4.71 to 4.75, somewhere in that neighborhood, and that's okay. That's okay. So he's got athleticism, though. He can move. Reliable hands, a guy that I feel really comfortable throwing the football to. If I'm a quarterback, Pat Freiermuth is the type of guy, and you saw it at Penn State. There was a steady diet of Pat Freiermuth running 5-yard stop routes, running 5 yards, turn around, stop. Find the soft spot in the zone, sit down, stop. And if he had 23 catches this year, he had 43 the year before. Of the 66 catches he had in the last 2 years, I'd say that 30 of them were of the 5-yard stop variety. Just run 5 yards, turn around, find a soft spot in the zone, sit down. So, but in that kind of situation or a slant where you got defenders bearing down on you, don't think that they didn't watch film and they don't know he's going to run a 5-yard stop and sit down. They got to make sure, they got to cover their bases, make sure he doesn't run right by him. But they're closing in on him. And so those windows get even tighter. You do that 2 or 3 times, those windows get tighter. Still catching it, though. Still catching it. Toughness and catching traffic, which leads us right into that. He's a tough guy. He'll take shots over the middle, run through arm tackles, which is why he got the moniker Baby Gronk, because he's running through arm tackles and dragging defenders. You saw more of that in 2019 than you did in 2020. But he's a tough guy. He's physical. Catch it in traffic, take shots, hold on to the football. Watched one game, I want to say it was against Nebraska, takes a hellacious shot over the top, but holds on to it. So he has that ability to do that. Might have been the Minnesota game, one of the two, in 2019. Competes as a blocker. I think he can be better. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But again, the willingness, the ability to compete is there. The spirit, the essence of wanting to get the job done is there. That's all I need. Can work the field vertically. He can get up the field. Again, another one of these guys similar to Hunter Long, that if you get in their space, all right, you get in their face, delete the airspace, get up in their chest, lay hands on them, you can impede progress. They're not one of these guys like Kyle Pitts that'll juke you or avoid contact or slap your hands down, get off me, and run by you. They're one of those guys that'll run right into you like, hey, I used to get so frustrated when I would watch TJ Hawkinson. I'm like, hey, stop smacking into dudes. The goal is to get up the field and avoid guys, not run right into them. Run around him. You have the speed to run around guys and make them pay. Don't run into them. That's what they want you to do, so it'll slow you down. And he's one of those guys that'll run right into people. Like, run around him. Avoid contact. You can do it. You have the speed to get vertical. Physical run after the catch. Again, that's the part where he got the moniker Baby Gronk from. And you see it. Again, go back to 2019. 2018, there's a bit of it. You didn't see a lot of that in 2020, though. You didn't see as much of it in 2020. And it was a small sample size. You see as much of it. But you saw a lot of that, dragging dudes and getting every single yard that was available. You saw a lot of that in 2019 when he had his best year of his collegiate career. Catch radius, talked about that already. 6'5" frame, you get catch radius a lot of times. Red zone target. He's a guy that is the favorite of a quarterback, the kind of guy you can throw a back shoulder fade to. He'll adjust to it, go get the football, that type of thing. So you saw it in his career, 16 career touchdowns for Pat Freiermuth. And before 2020, this was a guy, 7 touchdowns in 19 and 8 in 18. So this is a guy that finds the end zone, has a nose for the goal line. Formational flex, as I mentioned, not a guy that lines up in the traditional wide tight end alignment that you would like him to be able to do a little bit more of. He was always off the ball, more of a wing and an F tight end, as they call it, where you move guys around all over the formation, split them out, slot, as I mentioned numerous times. These are the types of attributes that is required of the tight end position now in the new age of football. You've got to be able to move around as a tight end. And Pat Freiermuth can do exactly that. Consistent production. As I mentioned, this is a guy that never had less than 300 yards receiving in his entire career. And in 4 games in 2020, he still managed to have 23 catches for 310 yards and a touchdown. So even when he really wasn't available, he still was able to make his impact felt. So this is a guy that every year produced stats at Penn State. 300 this year, 500 last year, and the year before that, close to 370 yards. So you're talking about a guy that put up some big-time numbers year in, year out, consistent numbers at Penn State. You go to his weaknesses. Wasn't showcased as a wide blocker. He was never in line at Penn State. I mean, rarely. They had a guy for that. They were like, hey, we got a guy for that. We don't need Pat Freiermuth to do this. Number 83 can do it for us. We don't need Pat to do that. Pat's going to be off the ball. He's going to be our wing. We're going to move him around, but we don't want him on the ball. Probably the reason they made that decision is they made a conscious decision. Hey, he's still developing as a blocker is my next weakness, and you could see it. You get some blocks where he'd whiff. You get some blocks where he'd engage, and then that guy would disengage and make a play. He's still developing as a blocker. You can see that he still has work to do in that department. But again, the want to is there, and that's what matters for me the most. Not tons of pure separation. That's the next weakness. I don't see a guy that's a winner at the next level. I see a guy that is going to have to learn how to win. He may have enough quicks, more quicks than I'm giving him credit for. It was not showcased at Penn State. They did not put him in a lot of positions to showcase the quicks. That said, you don't have to be quick to win. Jason Witten was far from quick. Zach Ertz is far from quick. You just got to know how to run routes. I could see Pat Freiermuth evolving into one of those guys. If he gets with the right coach or he gets with the right veteran tight end that can show him the tricks of the trade, I think he'll be just fine as a route runner and separating and things of that nature, because he'll learn how to lean on a guy. Lean inside because you're going outside. He'll learn how to use the little chicken wing. Just a slight push off, not much, not enough to get you the PI, the OPI. He'll learn those things, and if he's able to do that, he could turn into a beast at the next level. And then he had shoulder surgery in 2020, which cost him the final 5 games of his collegiate career. part of the reason he's not working out at the Penn State Pro. He did not work out, I should say, at the Penn State Pro Day, and that we can't put a 40 time to his tape is because he's coming off of shoulder surgery. So you just want to make sure you're fully healthy and ready to go by the time training camp starts. So that's something else that you need to be able to vet if you're a team looking for a tight end. Is, hey, is that shoulder good? Successful surgery? We all clear there? There's no scars there? No reason for us to be concerned in the future that this may crop up again? If you get the green light, Pat Freiermuth is definitely a day 2 selection, which is where I project him to be. I think he's going to be a second-round pick. I don't see any way in hell he gets out of the second round. In a league where you're void of real targets at the tight end position in a draft that is not loaded with tight ends that get you excited, when you find one that does, you got to pull the trigger. And I see a team pulling the trigger on Pat Freiermuth in the second round. If everything checks out, including that shoulder, he'll be off the board at some point in the second round of this draft. My comp for him, I've heard Gronk. I've heard Heath Miller. I think Heath Miller is a disrespect to Pat Freiermuth's athletic exploits. Heath Miller was never an athlete. He damn near ran a 4.9, if I recall, somewhere in that 4.85, 4.86, 4.87 range, coming out of Virginia. He did not have any bit of vertical separation. That was not Heath Miller's game. If you recall, he was a guy that worked underneath, but he was physical after the catch, which I could see how you could attribute that trait to Pat Freiermuth. And he was just a consistent guy. And I think Pat Freiermuth would take a Heath Miller career in a heartbeat. Most tight ends would. That said, I think he's more Todd Heap than he is Gronk or Heath Miller. A big athletic guy that has a chance to really be a difference maker at the next level if he's able to stay healthy and learn some of the tricks of the trade. He more, to me, resembles a Todd Heap type than any of the other guys that I've seen him comp to. So for me, Pat Freiermuth is my number 3 tight end in the 2021 NFL draft, and I think he will be selected in the second round.
LouieTeeNetwork.